right, episode 2. Episode 1 had 2 parts. We went really long on that one, so we broke it into 2 parts. Episode 2, and this one's going to be a short episode. Which
by short we mean
by short we mean we're skipping 2 of our normal segments, which are mental models,
right,
and tool time. Where we dig into a tool, and we just talk about a subject. So kind of a like one-shot hot take on a topic. And I chose the topic this time.
Yes,
he'll choose it next time.
Well, if you remember how the topic came about.
Wait, how did it come about?
We were testing recording, and I was showing you a tool, Rube.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then all of a sudden, you just had a lot to say.
I had a lot to say because I had written a blog post about this. Yes. Right. So today's short is about the chat interface for AI and its ubiquity, its current ubiquity, and my very strong feelings about the problems with it. And so we're going to dig into chat interface, but first you wanted to follow up on the startup that we created in episode 1, which is Lobe.
Right. So there's a prompt, and we'll see. I think we're going to do this a few times, but so I gave Eric a prompt for the first part of episode 1 to start an AI startup with the constraint of it has to be a screenless startup.
Screenless device.
Screenless device. And then the other constraint was he had to name it first and then come up with the product.
And then back into the product.
Right. Do you want to give a 30-second somewhat?
Yeah, I've been working on the pitch because I've been...
So give us the elevator pitch then.
Okay, the elevator pitch. The deepest insights about your life come from your dreams. But remembering dreams is difficult, and when we wake up, the dream is often fragmented and is forgotten. Lobe helps you discover the deepest parts of who you are by recording biometric data as you sleep, especially during REM sleep, and then reconstructing your dreams after you recount what you remember of them. Okay.
There you go.
Lobe, find the deepest parts of you.
Find the deepest parts of you. Yep. And a hardware device that sits by your bed.
Hardware device that sits by your bed,
yep.
Right? But
awesome.
That's just a detail, right? If you want to find the deepest parts of you,
right.
The fact that it's a device that sits by your bed is just a detail.
Just a detail. Yeah. Okay. So congratulations. You've just received a $3 million seed round.
Okay.
to pursue your dream. Okay. Pun intended.
Okay. $3 million seed round. All right.
So what do you do? What do you do first? Or what's the go-to-market plan?
Okay. Well, this is tricky because, at least part of that is, at least part of the money needs to go to producing the devices, right? I mean, there's a
hardware.
There's a hardware aspect, right? And people have, high standards, a lot of times high standards for hardware these days, although this can be very simple.
Agreed.
So a decent bit of the money is actually going to go towards battery technology, so you can actually, so that you don't have to charge it very often, right? You can just leave it sitting there for a long time, and because it generally only records during REM sleep, it has a pretty long battery life. But we're going to have to either acquire that or develop it. Probably acquire that technology initially.
Okay.
So long battery
life. So these
are
really designed for really mobile. Because I was imagining an alarm clock where you just plug it into the wall, but yours is like you're traveling all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. Whatever. So you got to have the battery part. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just
makes sense.
You just set it next to your. I think it looks nice.
Inductive charging, some sort.
Right, and then you don't. But the whole point is you don't have to charge it very often. So
right.
Let's just say a third of the funds are going to go towards the hardware side, right?
Okay.
So that's research, sourcing, manufacturing, etc.
All right, you have $2 million left.
All right, we have 2 million. This is great. I don't know. Is $1 million enough for that?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah. You can always go to Kickstarter if we need some more.
That's
funds.
well, gosh, the Kickstarter stories. So the initial go to market is going to be through partnerships.
Yep.
So I think it'll be much more difficult to crack the biometric, like the big biometric trackers, so Oura Ring and Fitbit and of course Apple Watch.
Right.
So
if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, no, absolutely not. But a company like 8 Sleep that focuses specifically on sleep,
right?
I think is a really interesting channel.
Right.
There are the apps. I think Sleep Score was the app that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So there are several.
Maybe there's an acquisition there.
Totally. I mean, you're definitely partnering with people who are potential suitors.
Right.
Here.
I just don't know how well that app's doing anymore. Maybe you should buy it. Buy their technology.
Yeah, that is super interesting.
Because, I mean, that's one of the best strategies for a seed round company is to acquire another company.
Well, I think that
Sorry, sometimes that is a good strategy.
Yeah, so $1 million is we're going to go buy the Sleep Score app.
Right. Which, I mean, they worked for a lot of years on that. Like, I was joking, but that actually might be a decent idea.
It actually is not a bad idea. Okay, we're going to explore that.
Okay.
We're going to explore M&A with that. But my initial thinking was that was a distribution play. Because you're just buying their user base, right?
Yeah.
Because they have kind of a freemium model, but, the combination there. That's
and no hardware.
Yeah, no hardware, right? But you sleep better if you don't look at your phone right before
Exactly,
bed.
yeah.
So
they need the hardware. Yeah.
They need the hardware. This is actually...
They need us.
They need Lobe.
They need Lobe.
To help people sleep, because if you have your phone next to your bed, you're going to look at it before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Lobe is really...
It's screenless.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's the second million is that we're going to try to acquire Sleep Score.
Okay.
And then...
We've got $1 million left.
Okay, we got $1 million left. Well, that's just going to be like runway for OpEx,
Yeah.
But go to market. So partnerships, we're going to try to acquire Sleep Score, to just sort of just like have immediate distribution.
Yeah.
And then this is going to sound old school, but I think physical mattress stores actually.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea.
Like you just, this is, and actually I think what you could do is you could basically give it away for free with a mattress purchase because people don't purchase mattresses that often, right?
Agreed.
Right. And so you put, that's a thing. You get your mattress, you go take the sheets off of your bed, pull your old mattress off, find a dumpster because you don't want to dispose of it.
Yeah. I actually have a story about that.
So there you go. I think that's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Because if you buy Lobe, if Lobe comes with your mattress, there's a mental association there, right?
Yeah. So this is funny because the moment you mentioned that, I imagine us hiring an army of teenagers twirling signs that say Lobe in front of mattress stores.
Exactly.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah, totally.
And then the what's the guy, like it has some I don't even know what the right word is. It's the thing that's like, I don't know, 8 feet tall that like blows around.
Oh yeah.
The carrot. What is that thing called?
In our family, we call that a silly guy.
Okay.
Because that's what that's what one of our children said. Look, it's a silly guy.
So there's the silly guy here, and the mattress store in the background. Blower,
and it's
with the blower, the blower with
there's a blower on
character.
it, so he sort of waving around and exactly.
So you've got that here. Mm-hmm. You've got the teenager twirling like the Lobe sign. And then the mattress store in the background. I think that's the right visual.
That's right.
Okay.
That's our.
Awesome.
That's a big part of our go-to-market. All right, how did I do?
Surprisingly well.
I spent $2 million, and I've got $1 million of runway left.
Right. most of which will go to our marketing strategy
Exactly.
around.
That's right. As it should.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As it should. There we go.
All right.
Lobe, go to market. All right, can we talk about AI chat stuff?
Yes.
Because, of course, I have really strong feelings about this. I wanted to actually, I'm going to share my screen.
And do we need to start with the one site that this all came from, or do you just have a? Or do you want to just
I'm
back
actually
up
going
and
to
give
run the
your-
gauntlet here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to show you. Let me see. Let me pull this up. Okay. I'm just going to run through a bunch of tools here.
Nice.
So this is a tool called Poe, and it's essentially a chat aggregator. I think this is from the people who did Quora.
Quora.
Yep. So this is
They
like
were early.
they were very
earlier.
early,
Yep.
actually. Yep. You can do group chats and all that sort of stuff, right? But let's just look at the general UX here. This is Bolt. So AI Builder. Stunning apps and websites by chatting with AI. Replit. Lovable.
Yeah.
Create Anything, which I love the company name Anything. Pretty awesome.
It is a cool name. I wonder how much anything.com cost.
I don't know, but I think this is, createanything.com. Rube. This is the one that
Yeah, that sparked the whole
yep.
discussion.
And then, of course, close to my heart is V0.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you see about all of these? What do you see about all of these that seems like a common theme?
I feel like this is a setup, but I'm going to say the chat interface for 100.
And actually, here, this is Notion. So I'm logged into Notion. This is Notion AI, actually. Yep. So this is a logged in state. So I have issues with the seeming ubiquity of the AI chat interface.
Yep.
Because I think there are several major problems with it. And I'm just going to run through my list of problems, and then we can either talk about it. You can confirm or deny that you think it's a problem. And then let me know if I'm missing anything.
I do have an interesting defense of the chat interface.
Okay.
I don't think it's strong, but it's worth noting.
Okay. Wait, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I do kind of.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Wait, you don't want me to try and tear it down and then you defend it?
No, I think it'll be more fun this
Great.
way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
this
for
is
it.
short. Because it is 1 point with about 4 or 5 points on the other side.
Okay.
But the 1 point is, imagine you created an app and say it was around 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Your app grew faster than any other app has ever grown. You have 800 million users after a couple users.
That sounds familiar.
It's a certain interface. And a bunch of people copy the interface. Like, sure, that checks out.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my defense of, well, there are 800 million people, using this interface. Maybe we shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel.
Totally. Well, we'll talk about this.
Okay, great.
We'll talk about this. And full disclosure, I thought a huge amount about this topic over the summer and wrote a blog post about this.
Yes.
A pretty long blog post, like 4,000 words or something like that. And so I'm just going to shamelessly steal all of my thoughts, my previous thoughts from the blog post.
I did not write a blog post about this. I do not have as many thoughts about it.
Okay. We'll put this in the show notes. I'm actually going to start by reading a couple of quotes because my strong feelings about this are actually I'm not alone in this.
Okay, so you're not going to quote yourself from your blog post.
I guess I actually could. Here, I can share. Let me pull this up. I'll just share this so people can read along.
And while you do that, anything.com is available for $2 million.
Ah. Maybe Lobe should consider a brand.
Yeah, spend 2/3 of the money on anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. This first quote is from Naveen Rao, VP of AI at Databricks. There's some nice, colorful language in here that I'll skip just in case you're listening in the car with children like me. So he said he was talking about, we were actually at this conference and we saw this talk live.
We did. Yeah, we were both there.
Yep, which was really cool. And so he said there's all these hard problems at the sort of bleeding edge of, the challenge of the next big fundamental breakthrough in AI technology as sort of one major area. And the other major area is UI innovation. He said a lot of the stuff people are delivering is a chatbot, which we just saw.
Yep.
It's the worst interface I've ever seen for most applications. I'm so tired of seeing chatbots. Please fix this. Give people insights, intelligence to the right user at the right time. This is why IDEs and coding interfaces have taken off, because they deliver value where I need it. They don't make me cut and paste something into a chatbot. That's actually, side note, very interesting based on our discussion about Zoe and file systems, right?
Yes.
Because it's just grepping. You don't have to cut and paste and dump a bunch of stuff into the context window. I love this. Is so great. He clearly has strong feelings about this too. This is the stupidest interface I've ever seen. Okay, that's one. Here's another interesting one. This is Benedict Evans, who I think he was at a venture firm for a while, but has been a tech analyst for a very long time. And I can't remember. I want to say it was Excel or one of the big name brand venture firms. Has written for a very long time. I mean, really just a wonderful thinker and writer. And he wrote an interesting post about the adoption metrics for these AI tools. And one of the things that he points out, I'll just read here, it might also be that the chatbot as chatbot is the right UX only for some people and some use cases, and most people will experience this technology as features and capabilities wrapped inside other things. I don't think we can know that. Hence, the real question, as I've hinted a couple times, is how much LLMs will be used mostly as actual user-facing general-purpose chatbots at all, or whether they will mostly be embedded inside other things, in which case trying to measure their use at all will be like trying to measure machine learning or SQL. How many times a day do you use a database? Who cares, right? And this is in the context of a post where he talks about adoption metrics. So you mentioned, there's 800 million people, using ChatGPT, but he makes the point that, in the numbers, there's still, it's hard to get at the actual, underlying data, but
right.
Apparently, the daily active numbers are very low.
Okay.
A huge percentage of users use it maybe a couple times a week.
So here's a thought. Think about, I think the mobile phone is a great, analogy or whatever that is called to this, where mobile phone comes out.
Yep.
And you can only call, then call and text, essentially. Yep. And obviously when the iPhone comes out, it enables a form factor that works with all these other things.
Yep.
Right? So, and it seemed dumb. And I even remember, but I like a physical keyboard. You know what I mean? A lot of people were like, but I like a physical keyboard.
The Palm.
And if you were just only texting, the physical keyboard was still better, especially than the original, keyboards. So I wonder if there's an analogy here where, if what you're using it for is just, quote, texting. And I mean, those, if you use ChatGPT, you can talk to it.
Yep.
And you can text it.
Yep.
It creates images, so you need a visual piece for that. But what's the, big shift that makes it so it's just so obvious that this is a limiting form factor? I think that's my question.
Okay. To say that in my own words, why is it problematic?
Yeah.
Why is the form factor of the chat interface problematic?
Yeah. What does it limit? What is it? Yeah.
Okay. Sure. We'll get there. I want to do one more quote. This is really interesting. Jacob Nielsen's he's a UX expert, has been writing for decades about UX. I thought this was really interesting. I doubt the current set of generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Bard, remember that name? The original name for Google's.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten.
Right? Things are moving quickly.
Yeah.
This post isn't that old. I doubt these are representative of the UIs we'll be using in a few years because they have deep-rooted usability problems. Their problems led to the development of a new role, the prompt engineer. This new role reminds me of how we used to need specially trained query specialists to search through extensive databases of medical research or legal cases. Then Google came along and anybody could search. The same level of usability leapfrogging is needed with these new tools. Better usability of AI should be a significant competitive advantage. Okay, so we can, here, I'll stop screen sharing there. I thought that was really interesting, right? The signal of like a prompt engineering as a new skill set for how to wield these tools is a really interesting symptom of a potential UX problem. Okay. Back to your question. So restate the question.
Okay, restate the question.
Yeah, restate the question because I have some answers for this.
So the original analogy was early mobile phone, text and call.
Yep.
Then iPhone comes out and people are like, excited, this is cool. Like it has a web browser now. Mm-hmm. But like I had a web browser on my other phone and it wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. And I want a physical keyboard, at least for a while. And then eventually like people were like, oh. And they kind of understood the new form factor. Then you had an app store and like the whole thing. So I guess my question is, current state, let's just use ChatGPT for example. Mm-hmm. You've got voice, and people do talk to it. I think that's a fairly common interaction. Mm-hmm. The most interaction common is text back and forth. Yep. We have a little bit of text input with like an image output. That's a thing. Yep. And then... yeah, so essentially, you change the form factor. Like, what do you think we're limiting ourselves with the current form factor? Is it a limiting thing, like with the iPhone, of like, oh, now that I can collapse the keyboard, like I can watch movies and it's a great experience, you know? Yep. So what's the limiters, like current state, and then the other component, I think, to the question is. I guess I've heard a lot of people say this, like, cool, so what do you recommend? You know, there's that like, yeah, it's fun to be edgy and complain about the chat interface, but like, what do you think we should do? You're going to make me actually have a... but people don't have an answer, and they just love to be, you know, contrarian. Sure. And then it's like, cool, what are you recommending? Totally. And then you hear crickets. Yes, I can answer that. I have some. Oh, I know you do. That's why I'm bringing it up. So let's talk about the limitations. Yes. I think that there are three main limitations, and we can dig as deep as you want into any of these. The first is a writing barrier. Oh yes. Okay. This is something I've thought a lot about because especially because I took a job as a writer, so I think about writing a lot, and it's actually hard to find data about writing skill generally. The closest thing that I found was like writing proficiency. And right? Humans. Yeah. So how good are people at writing? Yep. And because I think clear articulation, people who I know who are good writers over-index for the value that they get out of using the chat interface. Oh, interesting. Is something that I've noticed. Sure. Right? Yep. And I mean, you can call that prompt engineering, you can call it whatever you want, but I actually think that just being able to like very, very clearly articulate what your intention is, what you're trying to do, instructions, all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, it's a superpower that just got that already was a superpower that just got like massively magnified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And I think about it in terms of, you know, we talked about prototyping actually in episode 1 with V0, like in the context of product, right? So you can,
Right.
you know, prototype something that's really high fidelity, and that minimizes, you know, it can minimize the need to be overly verbose in a product requirements document
Right.
or something like that, right? But you still have to use words to build the prototype,
Right.
you know, with AI. So the best proxy that I found for writing skill was essentially a composite of reading and writing, which is literacy,
Okay.
right? So reading, comprehension,
So you're doing
and
research.
writing.
You're
Yep.
trying to find
Yeah, I
numbers.
mean,
and,
yeah,
literacy. Sure.
And so literacy, so this is a very widely cited study, and I think they do this worldwide, but I just looked at the numbers for the United States. Okay, they rank literacy on a 5-level scale, so
Okay.
5 being the most proficient and 1 being the least proficient.
Does that correspond? Because I feel like I've seen the scores with like high school level reading, collegiate level reading. You know, they kind of did it by
By
grade
that-
standard. Do you
That's
think
a
that
good
corresponds?
question. I don't know.
Because they rate people on that standard, and then they rate like books and stuff on that
Oh, right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
This
like
is like a
third
middle
grade
school-
level or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that was. I'm sure we could look it up.
Yeah. So 1 to 5.
1 to 5. And over 50% of Americans rank level 2 or lower.
Okay.
So over half of Americans are below average
Okay.
in terms of literacy proficiency, which is reading comprehension and writing. Which, I mean, the reading comprehension thing actually is
Yeah.
a component here as well, because generally what is returned is text. You know, I mean, there's an image component as well, obviously, but
Yeah.
a huge amount of text. Okay, so I think that's problem number 1, which is the, you know, writing skill generally, I think means you get more value out of the LLM. And so you sort of there's a fundamental limitation on, you know, how much value people are going to get out of this because of a fundamental deficiency in writing skill. Now,
Yep.
this is not a new problem
Right.
in that Google had to figure out how to take fragments of phrases and translate them into user intent to return highly relevant search results, right? And the LLMs are doing the same thing, right? Yep. They're performing web searches based on what they interpret as, you know, user intent, et cetera.
Right. And arguably better.
Definitely better.
Yeah.
Definitely better. But I think what is, and this leads into the second problem, I think the challenge is with Google search, it's returning a bunch of links that are really relevant.
Yes.
Right? The actual, the actual like task that the user is trying to perform is very specific. I'm going to a search engine and I am looking for something and I want a bunch of, you know, I'm going to get, you know, the search engine is going to return a bunch of links.
Right.
Okay.
And then the transaction's over and they're browsing another site.
Exactly.
And Google's done.
With an LLM, it's a blank page, right?
Right.
And so in fact, like you know, being more articulate is more helpful because you need to understand and articulate your own intent of what you're trying to do. Right. So I think that's what's interesting is that in Google search, you know, it's a known problem. In Google search, the intent was very clear and the terms of the transaction were very clear. This is completely open-ended, which I would argue actually means that writing skill is even more important, like I said before, right? And the other thing that's interesting, you brought up the idea of texting, you know, with a keyboard and then that goes away.
Right.
But again, the terms of that transaction were very clear.
Yes.
And this is very open-ended, right? I mean, the name of the company that we just looked at is Create Anything, right? And so, okay, so we have that sort of input problem, which, the prompt engineering thing, the major providers are certainly like using LLMs to understand user intent and optimize against that limitation.
Yep.
But I still think it's a fundamental limitation,
Yep.
right? Like the main interface for this is you articulating your intent in a completely, essentially open-ended environment.
Right.
And so if writing skill is low, then there's, I think, a fundamental value ceiling. So that's
Yep.
one. Two is the blank page problem,
Right.
which I think this is really interesting to me because it reminds me of the Amazon Alexa challenge,
Right.
which we've talked about,
Yeah, we
right?
have.
So
Yeah.
you could essentially run your entire home as a smart home by speaking to Alexa or
Yeah.
Google
Yeah,
Home or
like
whatever, right?
Smart
home
appliances
devices,
and
right?
light bulbs and
Exactly.
TV and everything.
And the research shows that overwhelmingly people just use those things for very, very basic things, for playing music,
Yep.
creating a grocery list, checking the weather, checking sports scores, or performing search, right? I have something that I want,
Right.
to know, hey, Alexa, what exact year, did
Right.
the Berlin Wall come down?
Which I
right?
think I've done research on this before. I read an article, and I believe the top things. You want to guess what the top two are?
Weather
Okay.
and search?
The top two, I believe, are set a timer
Mm.
and maybe weather.
Okay.
I think those are the top two.
Which is hilarious. So
Anyways, yeah.
that's the blank page. That I think is actually a really interesting limitation. It's very surprising to me that we have seemed to struggle to move beyond that because of the breadth of what these LLMs can actually do. It's amazing. I mean, you can create anything, right? That is super interesting. But people really struggle with the blank page problem, right? If you tell me I can create anything, like, what do I actually do? And I mean, there are certainly little suggestions and tiles that say, like, create a website or, optimize your calendar or other things. And so there's certainly UX hints that are, being added to this. And, I'm sure it will get better over time.
So, funny timing for this conversation, because the ChatGPT store just launched.
Ah, yes.
So do you think that? I mean, I think that helps, but how much do you think it helps? Because I think it might help with both of your two, problems.
I think it'll go a long way, but I also think that I think it'll go a long way because it is a way for users to more clearly articulate their intent by finding something that is related to a specific task where, per Google search, per texting on a physical keyboard, the terms of the transaction are much clearer, right?
Yep.
So I think that's actually just a way to more efficiently it's a way to more efficiently uncover user intent.
Sure.
Right,
yeah,
without
because
a
they
blank page.
clicked on the Spotify app
Exactly.
and then used AI to create a playlist or
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's interesting. And then the last problem, which is, I think, more specific probably to, more specific to knowledge work, is that to leveraging an LLM to sort of, let's say, its full value often requires some pre-existing knowledge or skill in the subject that you are that you're engaging the LLM for.
Right.
So an example would be, well, two examples, right? One that's very obvious is writing software, right? So
Yes.
more and more agents are writing software, but I'm very upfront about the fact that I don't have formal training in software engineering. And so I have built multiple pieces of software, fully end-to-end software with,
right.
a database and sort of a fully functioning front end, back end, all that sort of stuff. But you don't want me as, an engineering lead putting something into production for millions of users, because
Right.
I don't actually know how to fix it if something goes wrong.
Yeah, sure.
I would say writing actually is similar. You can articulate what you want to communicate with GPT, and it can generate a really nice email for you, but it won't give you the core skill set of a writer,
Yep.
And, you will help litter the world with M dashes.
That's so true. And when we were reading on episode 1, the inner ring speech has a lot of M dashes in it from
It does.
19.
Totally.
Whatever,
It's really sad.
40
I am
something.
sad about that, actually.
And I was looking at that, and clearly has nothing to do with LLMs, but like forevermore, somebody's just going to assume.
I know. Isn't that sad? So I do think the chat interface is really good for certain things, search being one of them, which is why I think so many people are using it for search, because it's familiar. It actually is it's a phenomenal step forward in search interface, right? I mean, there are some challenges to overcome, right, where which I think is happening, where you're sort of getting receipts and links out to, the information that the LLM is aggregating for you, as opposed to just it returning some information and it's non-deterministic and you don't know. So I think that is getting better, but exploring a topic, it's way better. It's
for sure
way more useful than Google search for a lot of things. And so it's a great form factor for that. But my problem with it is that we're applying that form factor to lots of other things.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. I actually think, so the other thing I wanted to do was starting there. So it's a good form factor for search, right?
Right.
For performing search. And then I think actually as things become more high context and the terms of the transaction become more clear, the chat interface becomes more useful.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again and just show a couple examples of, what I mean by that.
Yep. And I did look up the top Alexa use cases.
Oh, really?
I missed
Okay.
one. Music playback. So that's the top one, it looks like. Then timers and alarms.
Yep.
And then like queries, like news queries or...
Yep.
Yep.
So interestingly, if you click on Notion AI, this is just a free Notion account, but I think like a lot of them, they give you some, some usage. Okay, so here I'm going to say this is like mid-tier. So we have like completely open-ended. I don't know why that's not closing. You have completely open-ended GPT chat, which I think is used very heavily for search and other form factors where it makes sense and sort of overcomes the blank screen problem and the writing problem.
Yep.
Then you have, this is in context. And so this is just a very simple example. I was trying to pull together a bike tour for a trip to Amsterdam, to save some money.
Like one does.
Yeah, exactly. So putting together my own bike tour, which I used GPT very heavily to do all the search and planning, which was super cool.
And it worked out pretty well?
It worked out great.
Nice.
And so this is actually interesting, right? So here you are within a document that has a bunch of really specific information. And the chat interface, I think, is very high context here, right? This is, so maybe we could say, like, turn this into a bullet point itinerary with a timeline or something like that. Okay, this is super high context, right? And so I think it gets better the deeper you go into high context, which is the quote from Naveen Rao, said that about, LLMs as well.
You think the chat interface gets better the deeper you go?
Right, because you're
context?
super high context and you overcome the blank page problem, and it's much easier to articulate, what your intent is. The other thing, actually, that's really interesting. That's cool. Okay, so see, cool. It's,
this is a common problem I have with the interface. I wanted what was there before too.
I know.
and all of the, if you want to call this like a middle context, or maybe just high context, all of the Notion-esque, I've used several tools that are like this.
Yep.
And they're all seem to be all pretty aggressive about
Replacing
what I already have.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And sometimes it's what I want, sometimes it's not what I want.
Exactly. But actually, I think that sort of reinforces my point about the terms of the transaction not being clear. It's very unclear to me. This is very cool, but it overwrites what I did, and I don't know that that's going to happen. Right? There are just some cues there that are challenging.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And it's not just most of the ones here. It's unclear, even from my intent. I'm not even like blaming the like LLM. Like it's unclear from my intent. Are we trying to turn this document into this new form factor, or do you want me to create a new form factor from this document?
Exactly. So, when I say mid-tier, this is just an example because I don't really have anything in this personal Notion other than me dumping this, me doing this document. But when I say mid-tier, what's interesting is a lot of companies use Notion for, running their business.
Yeah,
right?
knowledge base.
Content calendar, knowledge base, internal documentation, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yep.
And so that's very high context for the business. And if Notion's AI tool can sort of, cross all those different, pieces of knowledge within the same closed system, right? Glean is another example of this, within a business context where they sort of aggregate, have Slack and Google Drive and Notion. It sort of solves the fragmentation problem, right? So that's mid-tier. And then I would say, the most high context would be something like an IDE, like Cursor.
Yep.
And here the intent is very, very specific. I'm within a specific code base, and I have very specific intent about what I want to do with that. I'm optimizing it, I'm building a feature, et cetera, right? And so I think the utility is greater the higher context that you get, which again, I'm just reiterating something that
if you tracked spend, right? I think track tokens spent in 2025, generating code would be really, really high.
Super high, right?
Sure.
Because the form factor makes a lot of sense. Now, I think the other interesting thing that we're seeing now is a couple things. So we're seeing things go more multimodal.
Right.
So like V0 is a great example of this, right? They have a design mode, right? And you can actually, click around and change text and other things like that, so that you're actually interacting with the website itself. And then Cursor actually rolled this out as well. So this is just a little project. Cursor has a browser, so you can see here I'm running this app.
Yep, so this is the browser inside of Cursor.
This is the browser inside of Cursor. And you can see that I can actually interact with the different components here. So this has become
is non-AI. This is like you could pick the word feedback there and change the color by clicking on it and picking a new color, for example.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Right. So, here's the color spectrum. Right.
Yep. Which I bet they used AI for the selection, like reading all the objects in selection.
Right.
But then you have a non-AI part where you are clicking and physically changing the code, which is a really interesting, I think a great example of non-chat interface but it's still AI powered, but invisible.
Totally.
And I'm just guessing, I assume that's how they did it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think the biggest opportunity is with the very general blank page, you can sort of do anything. Because I think that's where the most challenges are, right? And I think it's really cool to see tools like Cursor and V0 go multimodal within a very specific context to overcome some of the limitations of just having, chat.
Yes.
So here's my question for you. Why, if there are these very clear problems, and we're not the only people who think that these are problems, why is it so ubiquitous? I think you hit on one thing, which is this is a form factor that actually, it's a large language model. And so it actually was really brilliant, I think, of OpenAI to use this interface. Also, well, we can get there, but I think it's brilliant. You're interacting with a large language model, so you use a language to interact with it. It sort of makes common sense.
Right.
That took off. There's 800 million people who have, used this. And so why would someone try to do something like dramatically different?
Yeah. Yeah. That for sure. And then, of course, there's talk of these dramatically different, form factors.
Yep.
Which we talked. Here, I can show this. Remember Rabbit?
Oh, yeah.
We'll pull that up real quick here.
Yeah.
Rabbit R1. Let me show this to everybody. So this came up a while ago, and so this is Rabbit R1, and it's a physical device. Scroll down so you can kind of get an idea of the form factor.
It looks super. It's such a nice package.
Yeah, physical button.
I'm gonna reach out to them and see if we can use the same supply chain for Lobe.
Yes, perfect. But yeah, it's a really and I think they're going down kind of the app route where they're going to have apps.
Yep.
And obviously there's a voice component here. They've got their magic camera, which to be honest I don't fully understand what that does. But yeah, so you kind of get an idea for the form factor. You can talk to it. You can interact with it. It's got some basic apps that it ships with. I think there's going to be or is an app store. And yeah, I don't know. So at launch, yeah, so this is a RabbitOS 2. At launch, they launched really early.
Yep.
Which there's kind of a first mover thing there that sometimes is an advantage.
Yep.
They got really pretty roasted by a few people, especially I think it was MKBHD, who's a really big YouTuber, kind of like the product guy, reviews every iPhone and Android phone that comes out, and is like kind of the product guy, and kind of got roasted for like, hey, you released this too early, like it's not good, type of thing. Yep. But then they've kept going and they're on version 2, and yeah, this would be a cool redemption story. Hope they can get it in his hands again. But this is one thing I thought of. Somebody pushing hard to break the chat only interface.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's perfect. But it's the exact thing that they released early. They pushed hard, kind of got roasted on the original version, and everybody else saw. What do you think? Everybody's like, yeah, we'll just stick with chat.
Yeah, totally.
So there's just a high risk thing, I think.
It is high risk, and there are also a couple of really major advantages. So one is that, and this gets to, I do want to actually try to answer your question of like, if not chat,
right? What?
Then what?
Lobe. I mean,
if not chat, then Lobe.
Clearly.
Gosh. So what are the advantages? I mean, this is brilliant, right? So number one, it's really expensive to run these AI tools at scale.
Yes. And
so when you start making decisions about running jobs or performing tasks on behalf of your user without, when you're assuming their intent, the bill gets really high. And so we know this from building products, right? They're just things that you don't know until you get something in a user's hands. It's like, okay, you have all these assumptions. Even if you do research, you actually get something into users' hands, and that's when you really learn how they're going to use it. And so
correct.
The cost of that experimentation cycle is extremely high if you start doing things on behalf of your user and assuming, right?
Well, and we're being told, which I think is accurate, that the bottleneck, if you listen to episode 1, global bottleneck for all of the AI advancement is the data centers.
Yes.
So what are you going to spend that precious resource on? Making the foundational model better.
Exactly.
Application layer experience. Like I could list other things, but Okay, making the foundational model
Exactly.
better, I think, is so far what we've decided. But there probably will be a point where there's maybe some kind of diminishing return, and then like the money goes into like more money goes into that.
Exactly.
And resources go in the application layer.
Yeah, exactly. I think that will happen, right? But right now, it makes total sense for the user to explicitly declare their intent before you start incurring
Which
costs,
is just a fundamental, like we were talking about with computer. If you're going to do this at 800 million person scale, even if they only use it a couple times a week, you want that kind of serverless type model where somebody interacts. Something spins up really fast, somebody interacts, it does a thing, and then it's off for the however many 100 hours that they don't use it.
Exactly.
Like the math, that's how the math works.
Exactly, right? So requiring the user to initiate the chat makes a lot of sense. Also, you can just roll out new features without having any interface work.
True.
I mean
should not be undersold.
It is amazing how much you can do with GPT. Now, because of the blank page thing, I think there's a limitation. You can schedule stuff. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
Like at a super broad scale, because it's not very clear in the UX that you can do that, because you can do anything as a blank page problem, right?
Here's another one that you might not even know exist. On the $200 a month plan, which I had for a month and then canceled. There's I think it's called Pulse.
Oh yes.
And
it is.
It's that thing that we were just talking about where they do have this like proactive, hey, every day we're going to kind of like go through your chats and your integrations and like tell you useful things.
Yep.
And it's pretty good. It's kind of cool. Not worth $200 to me personally.
Totally. Well, I mean, which is interesting, right? And I think that goes back to the cost thing.
Yeah.
And
the reason it's on the $200 a month plan is because it's so expensive for them to do this proactive thing.
Yep. So, I do think that there are some really, really smart things about leveraging the chat interface as the primary interface that overcomes some very real structural business problems that enable velocity of rolling out features. There are just a lot of interesting things about it, but for the general use case, I think it has a lot of challenges. So I think a couple things. What is this going to look like in the future? So one, as the cost component and the economics of the whole thing, once the dust begins to settle on that, I think we will start to see more proactive things happening autonomously. Right. And I mean, even if you think about Cursor, or any of the other, IDE tools, right? If you repeatedly use Cursor to work on a code base, they're collecting a huge amount of knowledge about the software, about your intention as a user, about your role, like what you generally do on it, right? And so I think we'll start to see like really good recommendations about what should be done next, or changes that should be made, or other things like that, right? So
this will be a good topic for another episode, sleep time compute, which is a fun topic where high level idea is humans sleep every night. And we know that like fundamental to like making memories and storing memories, like there's a whole process that has to do with that. And the idea for sleep time compute is mirroring that. And then taking advantage of that time when active chat isn't happening with an agent to compress memories and to like, it's a very interesting, like
it's super interesting
space that would be fun to talk about.
Sleep time compute. We're putting it on the books for a future episode.
Yes.
So I think we'll see more proactivity, and then I think one thing that I'm excited about is, and we're already starting to see this on a much larger scale, is that AI disappears into the background and software just gets way better. Actually, an interesting example is Riverside, the tool that we're using to record this.
Sure.
I mean, the terminology that they use isn't, I think it's very marketing-y.
Okay.
Right, but you record an episode and then they will process it and automatically generate some assets for you to use, which is really, really helpful, right? And they sort of call it AI magic or whatever terminology they use. But it's like, okay, well, that is awesome. Yeah. I'm recording this episode. I save it, and then in the post-processing, they just do a lot of things that would be really useful, very, very manual to do otherwise,
Right.
that make a ton of sense. It's like, oh, this software is awesome. It's just making this thing that I want to do phenomenally easier, right? And it just happens to be AI under the hood.
Right.
So I think we'll see a lot of that. And then I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the generic chat. I mean, I think it's there to stay as a form factor for search.
Sure.
But as we've seen with V0 and Cursor, more multimodal, high context, experiences, I think, are going to be more and more common.
Right.
And so, how is that going to change? I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a matter of you have the store, in GPT. I think it's going to be figuring out ways to get to user intent faster.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Awesome.
Our first short, we did it in an hour.
Yeah.
Out
Great.
All right, we'll catch you on the next one. We'll do mental models and tool time on the next episode.
All right, see ya.